Hey, Teachable Tribe, Morgan here, and today I've got a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Christina Nicholson. I'm a former TV anchor and reporter, and now I help small businesses get their brands on TV and other forms of media.
Amazing. How did you get started doing that?
Well, I went to school for journalism, and for the last over 10 years, I worked as an anchor and a reporter. I worked in New York City, Fort Myers, Florida, Beaumont, Texas, and my last market was in Miami. And I got out about 2 years ago after having a couple of kids, and I needed some more flexibility and freedom, and the news business does not offer that. So I left news and I got into public relations, and I worked at a firm for about 6 months, and then I consulted for some other firms before starting my own, and that was almost 2 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome. When you decided to start your own, what led you to take that plunge?
Well, the reason I got out of TV was to have a flexible schedule and to have more freedom because, like I said, I have two little ones. And I quickly realized that unless you are your own boss, nobody really cares about giving you freedom. So I was running into the same problems when I was in PR. I wasn't having a flexible schedule. My boss was emailing me from 6 in the morning till 11 at night. And I still had to be in the office at 9:30 on the dot. And if I left before 5, I got like those judgy eyes from the boss that I was leaving early. So I said, you know what? I'm in the service-based industry. I don't need a whole lot of money to start my business. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing for these clients and these entrepreneurs who want publicity. I'm just going to do it on my own. So that's kind of how I went from TV to a PR firm to being my own boss.
That's incredible. When you first decided to do things on your own, what steps did you take to set up your new business?
I think the biggest thing was realizing you have to work a lot. And, we've all heard that quote where you'd rather work 80 hours a week for yourself than 40 hours a week for somebody else. And it really is true. You really are working so much more than you would be if you had a boss, but you're working where you want to work. You're doing what you want to do. I would take a break in the middle of the day between 2 and 3, but I would be working, from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And it was better for me because all you need to work today, 9 times out of 10, is Wi-Fi. And you can have Wi-Fi anywhere at any time. As long as the job is getting done, I don't think it matters where you are or what hour you're doing it. So I think the biggest thing for me was just knowing that I had to work a lot. And before I started my business, it was a side hustle. So I didn't just quit my job and say goodbye to the direct deposit every 2 weeks with nothing. I was kind of working up to where I wanted to be. So when the time came and I did quit, I already had something going. I wasn't starting from scratch.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. When you were getting started, were there any big struggles that you had to overcome?
Yeah, the hours of just working a lot was a struggle. And I thought I would start my own business and the clients would just come. And it's not like that. So as a business owner, it was almost like I was working 3 full-time jobs. I had to do the work for the clients. Then I had to be my salesperson and go and get my clients, which I hate. I don't like sales, but if you want to own your own business, you have to be your own salesperson. And then I was doing my own marketing as well. So what I was doing for my clients, I had to do for myself. I had to treat myself as a client. And it all kind of goes together with sales and marketing. Everybody says sales and marketing is the same thing. It's not the same thing. They are very different, but they work together to help one another out. So I think that was the biggest struggle for me, was just doing everything on my own when I started.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Did you implement like systems to kind of simplify that process, or did you just, get really good at doing everything?
Well, that's kind of how I entered the online business, because a lot of those systems are online, and those automated systems that really help you save time and money are online. You do have to do everything on your own at first because you don't have any money, so you can't hire a lot of people to handle what you need handled. So I learned a lot online, like I would use a certain email service where I could automate emails. With social media, I could automate my social media. So I'm really not logging on and posting on Twitter every 20 minutes. That's all been automated weeks and months ago. So I think that was the biggest help, was slowly learning. The more I moved online, the easier it was for me to run my business as a solopreneur.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know you mentioned your big motivation in this was freedom and like flexibility. Have there been any other great perks of being a solopreneur?
It's really just coming and going as you please. I'm also a lifestyle blogger, and I was recently invited to the social media mom celebration at Disney World. And I didn't have to ask anybody if I could have the time off. I could just plan it, and I could bring my kids, and I could still work from there. It was a social media conference, so it was for work. And I could bring my kids. And at night, when we were done at the parks, when we were in the hotel room, I could log on to Wi-Fi and work. So it's just nice that you can still work and get things done and make money, but you can do it on your own terms. You don't have to worry about, oh, I only get 2 weeks vacation, so I may not be able to do this because we're going to do this later. You don't have to worry about that stuff. And really, at the end of the day, another reason I left the corporate world was because that stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm in an office using your office computer between 9:30 and 5:30. What matters is if I get the job done. And if you can do that from anywhere at any time, then why not?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I love that. Kind of shifting focus a little bit to look at your business model. How do online courses fit in?
Well, when I started my business on my own and I had to go and get my clients to help them earn media exposure, whether it be on TV or online or on a podcast, I found a lot of people were saying the same thing. They were saying, oh, we've tried PR before and it didn't work out for us. The person we hired didn't get us anything, so now it's out of our budget, or just it's out of our budget. Because if you want to hire a PR firm, you have to pay a monthly retainer. And most of those monthly retainers are not below $2,500 or $3,000 a month. And a lot of small business owners can't afford that, whether you're a brick and mortar or you're a blogger who wants more exposure. You can't afford to pay a monthly retainer like that. So at first I would just be like, oh, they can't afford it. Good luck to you, and move on. And then I thought, that's not helpful. Why don't you just teach them what you know, and then they'll be able to do it themselves? Because as a small business owner, if you can't afford to outsource stuff, you need to take the time to learn to do it yourself, just like I did with building a website and all of that. So I decided to turn that into a learning experience for them, saying, okay, you can't afford it. You've had a bad experience. Maybe you want to tackle this on your own. Here's all the tools to do it. And it will cost you less than one monthly retainer. And you can implement this for the rest of your life.
Very cool. When you were making your courses, what did that, process look like when you were planning and filming? Did you have any systems to make it kind of go easier for you?
Well, the first thing I did was I noticed off the bat that it was going to be a lot of work. So I said, if I'm going to put all of this time and energy into something, I want to make sure I do it right. So I bought an online course about creating online courses. So that helped me a lot. And that's actually how I was introduced to Teachable, which, talk about systems. That's something that streamlines the whole process. And it takes all of that spending extra time on something worth it, because Teachable handles so much stuff that I don't want to do. I don't want to learn how to do it. So that was one thing I learned in the course about creating online courses, and so much more. So the first thing I did was actually learn the steps to do it from somebody who has done it successfully over and over and over again. And that was the first thing I did. And then around that time, my husband, he's from Canada. He was going to go to Canada to visit family. And he asked if I could go. And I said, no, I don't want to go. I am going to create this online course while you're gone with the kids. So I had silence in my house for about 2 weeks. And that is when I just went hardcore all day, every day, creating this course, because I already knew there was a market for it. I already knew small business owners, solopreneurs, bloggers, no matter how big or small, sometimes they can't afford it, or they don't want it, or they have trust issues. They want to handle it themselves. I already knew I had the market. And now I was given this time to create the course. So that's what I did. I first found out how to do it. And once I found that out, I actually did it. And I just jam-packed it into a couple weeks of all day, every day course creating.
That is so cool and so impressive.
Thanks.
Sometimes I find people have trouble like with the short time frames. You'll talk to people and they're like, oh, it took me about 2 months off and on. So whenever I hear people who just like knocked it out, I'm like, yes, that's awesome.
I think it was more like I had to do it. Like I had no choice because once he got back, and I actually around that time, my client list was low. So I figured if I don't do this now, I may never get a chance to do it. And actually right after I finished the course, my client list increased a lot and I would not have had time to do it then. So I'm very good about being productive and scheduling and blocking time. So it is possible for me to work all day, every day on something. And I just learned it all in the course. So it was like fun for me. It wasn't even like work. It was something I really enjoyed doing.
Well, that's awesome to hear. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm going to kind of get into our 2 closing questions. The first one is people who want to replicate your success and, you know, create a successful online business. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, a couple of things. I would say one, don't try to do everything on your own. You know, yes, online courses cost money, but it's a lot better to spend that money and do something right the first time than it is to waste so much time and trial and error. Just buy something from somebody who's already done all that trial and error, and they're going to teach you all of their experiences, because time is money. So you don't want to waste time. You just want to learn how to do something and then do it. That's my first piece of advice, is learn how to do it right and then do it. My second piece is when you learn, look at who you're learning from. And this is something that comes from my PR background. A lot of people, like I said, they have bad experiences. When you don't understand the industry, you may not understand what's good and what's bad, what to look for, who you're buying from. So my advice is, before you invest in an online course to learn more, to grow your business, know who you're investing from. Make sure they have done what they're teaching you in a successful way. They've seen the good and the bad and the ugly. They're going to tell you their mistakes. They're going to tell you what worked, why it didn't work. So my advice is just to do your homework and know who you're buying from, because today anybody can put anything online. You know, they say don't always believe what you read on the internet. And it's a tough industry, and a lot of people are trying to break into it. So I would just advise people to really look at who these influencers are and why they're influencers. And at the end of the day, when you buy a course, you're not necessarily buying the course because of the course. A lot of the times you're buying the person who's selling the course. I know in both of my cases, I would not buy a course from somebody if I didn't think they themselves would help me, or I didn't like their personality when, you know, I saw them on a webinar, or their tone in their emails spoke to me. So I think you want to pay attention to the content, obviously, but also the person behind the content.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that's a really good point, because a lot of people will say, well, you know, I can't make an online course because this person already made a course on that subject. But a lot of times people are looking for the individual's expertise and their perspective. So you can have a million courses on blogging, but somebody's going to buy your course if they like you.
100%. And everybody works in different ways. Like there's a million publicists in the country, but they all have different backgrounds. Mine is TV. My background's not in PR. I didn't go to school for PR. Mine is in TV. I got into PR because when I was a reporter, publicists were emailing me all day, every day, and their pitches were terrible. And they had no idea why, because they never worked on the other side. So I come into it from seeing both sides. A lot of people don't. They see one side or they see the other side. So yeah, you're hiring a person and you're looking at their experience, or maybe they have kids and you don't, so you don't relate in the same way, or vice versa. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what you do, everybody does that same thing in a different way. And you may like it or you may not like it. And that's how you go about choosing who you follow and who you admire.
Yeah, very, very true. To wrap things up, do you have any big plans or goals for the future, projects you're working on?
I would like to continue to increase my presence online. In person, it's great because I used to be on air here. I still am on air here, but I'd like to move that more online just because I don't want to be trading dollars for hours all day, every day. A little bit is okay, but long term, I'd like to move more of my business online. And then I'd also like to grow my lifestyle blog. That's something, I call it my side hustle because it usually gets put on the back burner. But it is something that has opened up a lot of doors and is fun for me. And it also goes hand in hand with what I do all day, every day, which is PR. So they kind of relate. But I think just moving more online instead of client to client work, because I think that's just the way things are going now, is more things are moving online. So I'd like to continue that track.
Oh, that's awesome, and good luck with that.
Thank you.
We can wrap the interview. Thank you so much for joining me. This was so much fun. You're so insightful.
Thank you, Morgan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course.